increases 3 times itself multiplied by 10 and again by 10 to reach the thousands. 1200 is the greatest possible efficacy of the 6 organs. Ananda, you can thereby establish their value. For example, the eyes see darkness behind and light in front. The front is totally light, the back is totally dark. With your peripheral vision included, you can see 2/3 around at most. Therefore, its capacity can be expressed as an efficacy which is not complete. 1/3 of its efficacy is without virtue. Now then, that the eyes have an efficacy of only 800. For example, the ears hear everywhere in the 10 directions without loss. They hear movements, whether far or near, and stillness without bounds. Know then that the organ of hearing is complete with an efficacy of 1200. For example, the nose smells odors with each inhalation and exhalation of the breath. It is deficient at the point between the inhalation and exhalation. The organ of smell can be considered to be deficient by 1/3. Know then that the nose has an efficacy of only 800. For example, the tongue can proclaim the entirety of worldly and transcendental wisdom. Although language varies according to locality, the principles go beyond the boundaries of any kind. Know then that the organ of the tongue is complete with an efficacy of 1200. For example, the body is aware of touch, registering it as a pain or pleasure. When it makes contact, it is aware of the thing touched. When in isolation, it has no tactile knowledge of other things. Isolation has a single and contact has a dual aspect. The organ of the body can be considered as deficient by 1/3. Know then that the body has an efficacy of only 800. For example, the mind silently includes all worldly and transcendental dramas of the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time, regardless of whether it be sagely or ordinary. Everything is included in its boundlessness. Know then that the organ of the mind is complete with an efficacy of 1200. Ananda, now you wish to oppose the flow of desire that leads to birth and death. You should turn back the flow of the organs to reach a state of neither production nor extinction. You should investigate all of these 6 functioning organs to see which are uniting, which are isolated, which are deep, which are shallow, which will penetrate perfectly, and which are not perfect. Once you have awakened to the organ which penetrates perfectly, you should thereupon reverse the flow of its beginningless involvement in false karma. Then you will know the difference between one that penetrates perfectly and one that does not. Then a day and an end will be one and the same. I have now revealed to you the fundamental efficacy of the tranquil perfect brightness of these 6. This is what the numbers are. It is up to you to select which one to enter. I will explain more to aid your progress in it. The thirst comes of the 10 directions cultivated by means of all of the 18 realms and obtained perfect, unsurpassed body. All of them were generally adequate. But you are at an inferior level and are not yet able to perfect comfortable wisdom among them. Therefore, I shall give you an explanation so that you will be able to enter deeply into one door. Enter one without falseness, and the 6 sense organs will be simultaneously pure. Ananda said to the Buddha, "World honored one, how do we oppose the flow, enter deeply into one door, and cause the 6 organs to simultaneously become pure. The Buddha told Ananda, you have already obtained the fruition of a Sotapanna. You have already extinguished the view delusions of living based in the three realms, but you do not yet know that your organs have accumulated habits that are without beginning. There is through cultivation that one severs not simply these habits, but also their numerous subtleties as they pass through arisal, dwelling, change, and extinction. You should now contemplate the six organs further. Are they one or six? If you say they are one, Ananda, why can't the ears see? Why can't the eyes hear? Why can't the head walk? Why can't the feet talk? If the six organs are definitely six, then as I now explain this subtle, wonderful Dharma door for you in this assembly, which of your six organs is receiving it? Ananda said, I hear it with my ears. The Buddha said, your ears are here by themselves. Then what does it have to do with your body and mouth? And yet you ask about the principles with your mouth and your body displays veneration. Therefore, you should know that if they are not one, then they must be six, and if they are not six, they must be one. But you can't say that your organs are basically one and six. Ananda, you should know that these organs are neither one nor six. It is from being upside down and sinking into involvements. Throughout time, without beginning, that the theory of one and six has become established. As a Sotapanna, you have dissolved the six, but you still have not done away with the one. It is like emptiness fitting into differently shaped vessels. The emptiness is said to be whatever shape the vessel is, but if you get rid of the vessel and look at the emptiness, you will say it is one and the same. But how can that emptiness become alike and different at your convenience? Even less can it be one or not one. Therefore, you should understand that the six receptive functioning organs should be the same way. Seeing occurs because the two appearances of darkness and light and their like firmly adhere to quietude in what originally was wonderful perfection. The essence of seeing reflects form and combines with form to become an organ. In its pure state, the organ of the eye is the four elements, and yet it takes the name eye organ and is shaped like a grape. Of the superficial sense organs and the four defiling objects, this one raises out after form. Hearing occurs because the two reverberations of movement and stillness and their like firmly adhere to quietude in what originally was wonderful perfection. The essence of hearing reflects sound and resounds with sound to become the organ of the ear. In its pure state, the organ of the ear is the four elements. It takes the name ear organ and is shaped like a fresh, curled leaf. With the superficial sense organs and the four defiling objects, this one is loosed upon sound. Smelling occurs because the two appearances of penetration and obstruction and their like firmly adhere to quietude in what originally was wonderful perfection. This essence of smelling reflects sense and takes in sense to become the organ of the nose. In its pure state, the organ of the nose is the four elements. It takes the name nose organ and is shaped like a double hanging claw. Of the superficial sense organs and the four defiling objects, this one probes out after sense. Tasting occurs because the two blends of blandness and variety and their like firmly adhere to quietude in what originally was wonderful perfection. The essence of tasting reflects flavors and becomes entwined with flavors to become the organ of the tongue. In its pure state, The organ of the tongue is the four elements. It takes the name tongue organ and is shaped like the crescent moon. Of the superficial sense organs and the four defining objects, this one pursues flavors. Sensation occurs because the two frictions of separation and union and their like firmly adhere to quietude in what originally was wonderful perfection. The essence of sensation reflects contact and seizes upon contact to become the organ of the body. In its pure state, the organ of the body is the four elements. It takes the name body organ and is shaped like a tabla. Of the superficial sense organs and the four defining objects, this one is compelled by contact. Knowing occurs because the two continuities of production and extinction and their like firmly adhere to quietude in what originally was a wonderful perfection. The essence of knowing reflects dharmas and grasps dharmas to become the organ of the mind. In its pure state, the organ of the mind is the four elements. It takes the name mental cognition and resembles seeing in a dark room. Of the superficial sense organs and their four defining objects, is one traces after dharmas. Ananda, in this way, the six organs occur because that bright enlightenment has a brightness added to it. Thus they lose their essence and adhere to falseness and create light. Therefore, apart from darkness and light, there is no substance to seeing for you now. Apart from movement and stillness, there basically is no disposition of hearing. Without penetration and obstruction, the nature of smelling does not arise. In the absence of variety and blankness, tasting does not occur. Lacking separation and union, the sensation of contact is fundamentally non-existent. Without extinction and production, knowing is put to rest. You need only not follow the 12 conditioned appearances of movement and stillness, union and separation, blankness and variety, penetration and obstruction, production and extinction, and brightness and darkness. Accordingly, extract one organ from attention, free it, and subdue it at its inner core. Once subdued, it will return to inherent truth and radiate its innate brilliance. When that brilliance shines forth, the remaining 5 adhesions will be freed to accomplish total liberation. Do not follow the knowing and seeing that arise from the objects before you. True brightness does not comply with the sense organs, yet lodged at the organs is the revelation of the brightness that permits the mutual functioning of the 6 organs. Ananda, don't you know that now in this assembly there is Aniruddha who is blind and yet can see, the dragon Upananda who is deaf and yet can hear, the spirit of the Ganges river who has no nose and yet smells fragrance, Gavampati who has an unusual tongue and yet senses flavor, and the spirit Shunyata who has no body and yet is aware of contact. In the light of the first common, this spirit is illuminated temporarily as an ethereal essence without any substance. In the same way, there is also Mahakashyapa in this assembly, dwelling in the samadhi of extinction, having obtained the stillness of a sound hearer. He has long since extinguished the mind organ, and yet he has a perfectly clear knowledge which is not due to the mental process of thinking. Then, Ananda, after all your organs are completely freed, you will glow with an inner light. All the ephemeral defiling objects and the material world will thereupon change their appearance, like ice which is melted by hot liquid. In response to your mind, they will transform and become the knowledge and awareness which is unsurpassed enlightenment. Ananda is like an ordinary person who has confined seeing to his eyes. If you suddenly have him close his eyes, he will see darkness before him. The six organs and his head and feet will be enveloped in total darkness. If the person traces the shape of external things with his hands, then even though he cannot see, he will recognize someone's head and feet if he feels them. This knowledge and awareness are the same way. If light is the condition requisite for seeing, then darkness brings the absence of seeing. But to perceive without light means that no dark manifestation can obscure the seeing. Once the organs and objects are eradicated, how can the enlightened brightness not become perfect and wonderful? Ananda said to the Buddha, "Won't honored one, as the Buddha has said, the resolve for enlightenment on the coarse ground which seeks the internal must be in mutual accord with the ground of fruition. Won't honored one, the ground of fruition is Bodhi, Nirvana, true suchness, the Buddha nature, the Amala consciousness, the empty treasury of the thirst come one, the great perfect mirror wisdom. But although it is called by these seven names, it is pure and perfect. Its substance is durable like royal vira, everlasting and indestructible. If the seeing and hearing are apart from light and darkness, movement and stillness, and penetration and obstruction, and are ultimately devoid of substance, they are then like thoughts apart from sense objects, they do not exist at all. How can what is ultimately destroyed be a cause by which one cultivates in the hope of obtaining the fruition of the thirst commons sevenfold permanent abode? Won't honored one, when it is apart from light and darkness, the seeing is ultimately empty, just as when there is no sense object, the essence of thought is extinguished. I go back and forth in circles, minutely searching, and basically there is no such thing as my mind or its objects, just what should be used to seek the unsurpassed enlightenment. The thirst come one previously said it was a tranquil essence, perfect and eternal. His present contradiction defies belief and is a resort to idle theorizing. How can the thirst command's words be true and actual? I only hope the Buddha will let fall his great compassion and will instruct us who do not understand and who are holding on tightly. The Buddha told Ananda, "You study and learn much, but you have not yet extinguished outflows. In your mind, you know only the causes of being upside down, but when the true inversion manifests, you really cannot recognize it yet. Lest your sincerity and faith remain insufficient, I will try to make use of an ordinary happening to dispel your doubts.